At AIG, we believe the critical illness market isn't fundamentally broken. We just need to rethink it a bit. The question we have to ask ourselves is, how do we ensure more customers have critical illness cover? Over 50% of people will suffer cancer in their lifetime, and in the UK, every 7 minutes someone will have a heart attack and every 12 minutes a stroke. This product really is needed. What we have to ask ourselves is the who, the what and the how. What we want to sell, who we want to sell it to, and why we want to sell it. At AIG, we believe simplicity is key. Key 3 is simple, but it's not just about simplicity. We really need to understand the market and ensure that there is choice. One size does not fit all. We have a comprehensive product, which if the broker has time to explain it and the customer can afford it, is the right thing to recommend. If you're a distributor who is non-advised, has little time to explain it, or you're a mortgage broker who has gone through a lengthy 3 or 4 hour mortgage application, then something quick and simple and easy to understand is the key.
So whilst I don't think the critical illness market is broken, I definitely do think we need to actually approach it slightly differently. Ultimately, what we want is to have more clients to be able to make a claim when they need it most. They need financial help. And one of the key challenges that we've got with critical illness is that so many people don't meet those definitions and they fall through the gap. Now, one alternative is to actually consider looking at income protection, but more importantly, trying to bring those two products together. So clients aren't really having to think about the product. Ultimately, when they need financial help, they've got something that's actually going to pay out, whether that be a lump sum or whether that be a regular income. And it could be dependent on actually what the client's condition is and actually how much financial support they need. But ultimately, we do need to think about this problem differently. Adding on more and more conditions so that more clients can hopefully claim isn't solving the problem. We are ending up with negative stories, and ultimately we're ending up with families who aren't getting that money when they really need it most. And if you've got a specialist that's telling you you're critically ill, then ultimately you believe that you then should have the money that you've been paying into, and rightly so.
Critical illness suffers from a number of problems, one of which is the complexity that has been brought about over the past 20 years by the addition of yet more conditions. And whilst this does result in more claims, it also results in greater complexity, which I believe puts off many advisors who see it as a minefield that they're not prepared to tread, partly because of the potential for the Ombudsman to become involved and make a value judgment based on the advice they've given. If we look at how critical illness evolved from a 5-condition core product to one that now can encompass up to 80 conditions, then we surely must reach the conclusion that if we was to start from scratch today, the design would look absolutely nothing as it currently does. And the problem is that so many conditions overlap in terms of what they cover and also in terms of the claim wording that companies use. A clear example of this is where you get 7 or 8 conditions that say we insist on permanent neurological deficit. You get equal number of conditions that say we require loss of motor function, and so forth and so forth. And in a sensible and considered world, I believe we would be better off to have maybe 15 to 20 conditions which are specifically outcome based, where we could say, for example, any condition that causes permanent impairment of motor function, brackets such as motor neuron disease, muscular atrophy, etc. If we did that, we'd end up with a more comprehensive plan than we have today. We would have one that covers those cracks in the pavement that certain conditions unfortunately fall through, like transverse myelitis, and we would also have a simpler product for both the consumer and the advisor to understand.
At today's Protection Summit, for me one of the most interesting pieces was when I asked the audience who they'd vote for in the US election, Trump or Clinton. No one wanted to vote for Trump, a handful of people wanted to vote for Clinton, the vast majority wouldn't vote for either. The reason for that was that Trump and Clinton spend all of their energy talking about the bad pieces about the other candidate. Very little effort at all expanded on talking about the good things that they do. That led me on to thinking about the critical illness product. Within our market, the conversations and discussions we have about whether it's CI or IP, within the CI product, the complex versus the simple, within the complex, how many conditions does one product cover versus another, and even the channel conflict. You know, is it good that you can go to a bank and only buy one product when from an IFA you can choose from several products? What I think we really need to do is take a step back and say, how is all this internally driven debate, which in the main is just genuinely good, well-meaning debate, perceived to the outside world? Sadly, as some of the headlines in the trade and the sort of national press often shows, it's perceived in quite a negative way. So that's not to say we shouldn't carry on having those debates, but what I really think we need to do is to make sure that those debates are had in forums like this, behind closed doors, where we can actually make sure that we're talking about those things to get good outcomes for customers. But once that debate gets into the public domain, that it's not perceived in the wrong way and comes over as a negative for our industry.